Alrighty, good morning, my friends. It is Thursday, February 20th of 2025. Let's go ahead and jump back to yesterday. I think there's a really good lesson. I want to talk about anticipating a market rotation um, because we have been kind of talking about that with a lot of the setups I've been sharing lately and showing you where I've been entering in trades. Typically, it's when we are getting higher time frame signals for a rotation. So I do want to talk about how I do it, and I've already kind of showed you, but I think there's a good lesson yesterday because when we came in yesterday morning, we talked about having clues for a pullback, and we did start to get a pullback from the highs of the overnight session. But when we came into the open yesterday and we did our pre-market, I did warn everybody that the pullback we got might be as far as the bears get because we are in a strong bullish market. And for all we know, again, we don't know how far the bears are going to pull things when we start to get an alignment of bearish signals. But we had already pulled back from the overnight high at 57 down into this 30 area right around the open, nearly a 30-point pullback. And like I said, when we did our pre-market, it very well could have been as far as the bears were going to get. And next thing we know, we could continue on the way back up. So what I want to show you is what I was seeing down around these levels when or just before the market got the rotation. Because as you can see, after a little bit of trepidation here and a nice beautiful hold off the back end of the 200, the first test really, I guess, maybe not, but essentially the first test in a long time, right off the 200 there. So a nice hold, but a lot of trepidation over here. And then eventually they got back up through the 200 there. Notice beautiful kiss of the 200 first tag in that instance, the big bullish divergence. Once we got through there and got through VWAP, because notice what happened, we kind of got through and actually held to the tick for this beautiful, or within a tick or two for this beautiful little parry. But then it came back down, and then eventually we got back through 50% of the day before in VWAP to then start to push to new highs. So let's take a look at what was going on down here and what alerted me to the potential for this very bullish bounce to happen. Okay. Now I got to be honest with you guys. I didn't put anything into the chat room yesterday when I saw all these signals, partially because I didn't want to confuse you guys anymore. Because remember, we have good signals for the bulls and the bears all over the place. And, you know, if I came in and I said, hey, we've got clues for a bounce, I didn't want everyone to just start buying the market. And because we could have very well pulled back into this the 28 roadmap level, or even got a deeper pullback before the bounce officially transpired, right? Because we can get signals, and the signals can build up, and we can start to inch a little lower. And then eventually, once we get through the previous major swing high, we then start to get the change in the trend. So I didn't want to kind of, I don't know if the words fake people out or mislead anyone. And I didn't put it in the chat, but I want to show you what I saw and why I was kind of expecting the bounce. Another thing I need to mention here before I show you all that is I didn't trade yesterday. So when we opened, if you guys remember, the market was very, very slow. I mean, we sat here and just inched up and down and quite literally just kind of chopped up and chopped down, and the volume was really, really light. So, and then to be honest, I was leaving later in the day to go visit my niece. And I just was like, you know what? I had a really good day yesterday. The market is barely moving. The volume is really low. I don't feel like I have much edge inside this chop. And you know what? By 10 a.m. here, I just was like, okay, I'm done. So I didn't trade at all yesterday. But I do want to show you what I saw from the lows that was highlighting the bounce that happened for the rest of the day. So when we came into the open here, I've already kind of told you guys in the last couple weeks how much I really like looking at some of the time frames that are just above this 512. So we do like to jump up and look at our 60-minute time frames and our 4-hour and our daily and all that. Because a lot of times when that hourly, 4-hour, and daily line up, that's when we get a major rotation. But I wanted to zoom down and show you what I'm looking at on the intraday time frame. So already kind of did it the other day. But let's zoom this 3-minute chart right back to where the market opened. Okay, which was, and hopefully I can find this here. Back to yesterday. Come on down and get to right around 9:30, which was the open here. So bear with me for just a moment. Let's get it as close to the open as possible there. That's the candlestick right before the market opened here, and let's zoom it in. And then, like I showed you the other day, and maybe a couple times, is my 15-minute and my 30-minute. So when I'm looking for rotations in the market, ideally I want to start to get my 3-minute, my 15-minute, and my 30-minute in alignment. Just like on the higher time frames, when I'm looking for like a major higher time frame rotation, I'm looking for this, the 60-minute, the hourly, the 4-hour, the 240-minute, and the daily time frame to all start to line up for one of these major rotations that we get. So typically, like down here from this major low that led to, you know, a couple hundred points of a bounce, and whoops, shouldn't move that. Should be somewhere right around there. From that kind of, what's the word? From that ultimate low, I guess we can say, that's right where basically daily 4-hour hourly time frames will line up. And as you can see, then you get a multiple 100-point push from there, right? And same thing up off these major highs that lead to very aggressive moves. So the high time frames will clue me into much larger market rotations. However, on shorter time frames, the time frames we're really trading on the intraday, I like that alignment of the 3, 15, and 30. So you guys can pull these charts up and also watch for these signals. But let's pull this over to, again, yesterday. Actually, here's the 19th. And let's go down to the way this chart looked right when the market opened. So again, here's 9:30. Okay, so that's quite exactly how the chart started to look on the 15-minute, and then over here, here's our 30-minute, and where's the 9:30 candle? Right there. Okay, so let's kind of try to put this together. We'll move these over a little bit. And first of all, this is how my 3-minute chart looked coming into the open yesterday. You see this big potential bullish divergence where we're at right here? Okay, you've got this really nice potential 3-minute. And then eventually, I think we break the high of that candlestick and you get the bullish signal confirmed, right? Just within the first couple minutes of the open. On the 15-minute here is what the chart looked like right out of the open. We had this peak down to this lower low that we just saw on the 3-minute chart. And there was a double divergence. We had the divergence from the first low, and then we peaked slightly lower and then got another potential divergence. That's the 15-minute, and then my 30-minute here, you kind of get the picture, also had, and this is just beautiful stuff here, there's the peak down into that lower low, there's that bullish divergence. So I've got a 30-minute, I've got a 15-minute, and a 3-minute. These were potential. They hadn't confirmed yet on the higher time frames here, but the 3-minute started to confirm once we got the hook. And then, again, out of the open, it was very slow and choppy. So we kind of got a bounce, but then we got that reversal pattern off the high on the 3-minute here, and then it came back to the lows. And we just quite literally just bounced around here, again, for that first full hour of the open, right until about 10:30 when we got the first pop. So you can see here, as we continue to kind of play around right around the low of the overnight, right out of the open there at 61.30, we keep getting more 3-minute bullish divergences. As they peak lower, RVI peaks higher. So this was 10 a.m. Like I said, I walked away right around 10 a.m. And I saw this and just went, okay, yeah, it makes sense that we're most likely going to get a bounce. But I don't really have anywhere that I want to get in. And it was very slow and choppy. So again, I left. But this is the very pattern that started to show up. And then again, what happened down here? Let's go back to the 512. We come down. Again, we play around for a while down here. We hold the back end of the 200, basically the first tag, and for argument's sake. And again, get that slightly lower low that we just saw in the other time frames. And then bam, we get the push through VWAP. And I want to show you guys the first trade you could have tried on the bullish side, in my opinion, because you get the crossover right here and you get the price breaking out to a new high. The first clue of a push in the direction of all those bullish signals that we just saw line up off of the low of the day. So right here, beautiful bullish signal lining up from these lows. And then we get the breakout through, you know, the highs of this downtrend, right? Or you could even tighten it up. Say, look, we've got all these highs, series of lower highs, and then bam, we get the breakout, we get the crossover of our moving averages, and price now gets through 50% of the day before, a very critical level, and then up through VWAP. First clue that this is the beginning of the potential breakout. Now, look what happened. You actually got the first tag of the 200 for a beautiful bullish long opportunity with no risk. It quite literally to the tick bounced right off, and you should have been able to make some money there. So that was probably the sexiest thing you could have done yesterday, just about an hour after the market opened, was wait for the market to show its face for all those potential bullish signals, get through the key two levels we want to get through, right? Get above VWAP, get through 50% of the day before, the first bullish task. And then, again, you had two opportunities here. So, again, I wasn't trading, but I do want to point out that you had the first opportunity. This is a textbook setup. Look at the freaking divergence here as it pulled right to the FMA and our roadmap level. In fact, there were 3 roadmap levels sitting right there. Is that not a picture-perfect little opportunity there? Now, did it actually work out? No, they eventually pulled back through, but you should have been able to make money on the pop. So from 37 to 40, that's 37 half to 40 half is a 3-point pop. You should have been able to get your 2-point scalp off, but then again, it came back. And then here, right here, like I said, the sexiest trade of the day, right at the 200. And why is it the sexiest? That's because this right here is a super aggressive entry, right? In a strong market, we would have seen this come up, pull back right to the FMA, and then keep on chugging higher in a very, very strong market. But in this case, we got a pullback, and the more prudent level to try, or the more conservative level to try, the less aggressive level, was that textbook 50% retracement, or nearly a 50% retracement. Yep, 50% retracement of the leg that breaks out, and it happens to line up perfectly with the 200 and this previous swing in the market. So let me clear that up. And we are taking a little bit of time here, but why not learn a little bit and think? Show you how I think when I'm trading. So this was the breakout. You measure that leg from the low to the breakout high. 50% lines up nearly perfectly with the 200, right? And then we have this beautiful little ledge of price right here. So that right there, and my friends, even if it didn't follow through, even if they came right to VWAP and then came down to lower lows, that right there would have been probably the best thing you could have done in the morning, because we were waiting to see if the bulls were going to get the response. Because I told you they got a decent enough pullback that the bulls could jump right back in. So we got the first clue. You got your first opportunity from there or from here. And if you took the 200, yeah, you did get a near 5-point bounce. You got 35 to 40. But then they threw that ratchet in the gears there, and they probably took a bunch of stops out. They came all the way through into like a nearly 75% retracement of the leg, and then they brought it up. Now, in many instances, the market will come right to the 200, and then we will start to get a decent trend out, and they won't come all the way back through. This right here is basically a stop hunt, in my opinion. They're trying to come back and take everyone who started to get long over here, especially on the pullback into the 200, take all their stops out, and then bring it right where everyone wanted to see the market go. Right? It's very common to see that, and that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You pick up, you try to make some money on your trade. You don't get your runners, and you get stopped out on the rest of your runners, and then you just wait for the next good setup, right? So that is kind of the lesson for today. We're trying to put together the signals that are lining up with the price following through in the direction of those signals, getting through key levels we need to see them get through for a specific bias in a specific direction. And then we're looking for pinpoint entries off the roadmap levels to get in, right? And sometimes you're going to get in and it makes sense for a beautiful setup and they'll just go right through. And that's the nature of trading. Nothing out there is going to work every single time. So that is basically our lesson for this morning. There were some notable things in terms of rotations in here we can look at. They did get the beautiful pullback into the VWAP there with a picture perfect divergence. Look at that double bottom and look at that divergence, right? So again, if you're looking at that in real time and you see this peak up and come right back to the low and the RVI doesn't come back to test that low and then it breaks the high of the candle, well, there's your little rotation in the market. That could be the beginning of the next push, especially because we're bouncing right off the mean of the day. Right, and if you did take it, I mean, how much risk? If you waited for the double bottom and it started to come out and you got filled from, say, 41, you again only had to take on 1.5 points of risk. And then how far did we get? You got over 10, 20 points to the upside. So there were some really good trades inside of this price action yesterday. There was a beautiful pullback to the 200 here. And look at all the resistance at the next roadmap level once we broke out. You can just see, zooming out here, the low of the day was a pullback basically to the roadmap level. We broke out. We had trouble at the next roadmap level, our SNR, and I guess Hopel right off the tick to it. And then came up and the next trouble was right at the next roadmap level where we fell to the tick, peaked through, and then right here, bearish divergence and pullback. And then they pushed all the way up. And then I guess the icing on the cake for yesterday is I told you guys, if we break out to new highs, this right here is the major resistance, 61 to 63, or 61.5 to 63.5. That right there, even if we break out through the high of the day before, which is very close at 57, if we break out through there, this most likely could hold the market down. And what happened here? Just zoom in to the details. How many times did they come right to the top end, 63.5? And fail off of it, and then get above it and hold above it, and then finally get down below and hold it to the back end for the pullback, right? And at the end of the day, they came all the way back, kissed it again, and then we start the pullback into today. So there was a whole lot of good opportunities yesterday. Couldn't have worked out any better because I warned you that this might be the scene of the bounce. If we could get through 50% of the day before, we could target back to the high of the day. And if we broke out through the high of the day, you can expect that the market might have some trouble somewhere between 61.5 and 63.5. And again, it doesn't really work out much better than that. Sometimes we come right to the roadmap level and that's the high and we fail, right? But pretty perfect there. And then again, they couldn't just get a deeper pullback. They came right back to the resistance earlier in the day here, which was our roadmap level, came right back to it and then bounced out to fail off it again. So lots of great opportunities, my friends. That brings us into the overnight here where we have gotten the pullback from up here where we do have a lot of bearish clues this morning. And we're coming down into the low. And this morning looks very much like yesterday. So let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames. We have just under 10 minutes now to look into what they have to say for this morning.